be ready down that way. Hello and good evening. Welcome to the organizational meeting, the reorganization meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township. Today is Monday, January 6th, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could just observe a moment of silence this evening, maybe keeping in mind those who died in the terrorist collision in New Orleans. Thank you. Now, please join the board in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're actually going to be having two separate meetings this evening. First is the reorganizational meeting. It will be adjourned, and then we will start a rather short agenda for our regular meeting this evening, our first meeting in January. So having said that, I note that there are 4 opportunities of public comment. I'd like to open the first one of them up right now. If anyone has any comment from the public. Come up to, yep. Thank you. Please tell us your name and again where you're from.
My name's David Hardesky. I currently reside at 1 Stonebridge Court, Langhorne, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So my public comment, and I want to express my gratitude for the board allowing me the opportunity to speak. This is on the planned sewage treatment plant that's from what...
Yes, sir.
This is pertaining to the reorganization at the moment, correct? This should be for the second meeting.
Oh, it can be. Were you planning on staying for the whole meeting?
I'll stay as long as you guys will let me.
Then it should be for the second meeting.
Okay. We'll have a wait till the second meeting. It'll be about a half an hour over the agenda to get through.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll move along to the organization of the Board of Supervisors. And we have the first order is the election of chairperson.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Ellen Schneider as chair.
I will second that. Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of electing Ellen Schneider as the chair, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And having done that, I will ceremonially give you the gavel. Thank you. We'll change seats next week.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to elect Dennis Fisher as vice chair of the Board of Supervisors. Does anybody have a second?
Second. Did you second?
Yes.
I seconded.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Please say aye. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. I have a motion to elect John Mack as Secretary, Assistant Treasurer of the Board of Supervisors. Does anybody want to make?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, the motion passes 5-0. Moving on to chairman's comments, which is now me. amazingly enough. I'd like to thank my fellow supervisors for trusting me to be the chairperson for 2025. I appreciate the wise guidance that I've gotten from them in the past 3 years that I've been serving my township. There is nothing that gives me more pleasure than helping with the things that I care about most here, which includes the protection and welfare of those that live and work here. We have such great men and women that work in all of our government here in Newtown, including the brave people that work for our emergency services and all those that work behind the scenes as well. We've begun to address some environmental issues here, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more environmental work in the future. I think most of all, I'd like to thank Dennis Fisher, as he'd been as good of an example of strong, smart leadership that one could have. He's been a real role model and mentor who always accepts a call from me about questions on agendas or helping me learn how a township works from the bottom up. So I thank you, Dennis, for that. A few things that we'll be working on in 2025 include looking to renovate our existing police and fire stations. We'll also be looking for ways to provide our departments with items that couldn't be included on this year's budget, such as more police, more firefighters, additional public works employees, and capital purchases, including public works vehicles and investigative tools for the police, with much more to come. Now I'm going to pass this over to Supervisor Fisher so he can give our year-in review.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Would like to just list a few things that are highlights from the year past, 2024. There may be some that you don't think were accomplishments, but some of us do. There may be some things that I left out that I didn't get to, didn't think of, couldn't find. So, without further delay, the first one is the Business Commons overlay that we voted on to allow an increase of land uses in the Business Commons. The next one is connecting sidewalks in the Business Commons for increased walkability. Newtown Trail connections, especially considering the pedestrian bridge at the northern end of Sycamore Street. That bridge would be a pedestrian and bicycle bridge into the borough, and vice versa from the borough to the township. We have addressed pedestrian safety with developing signalization at Silo and Sycamore and Terra and Newtown Yardley Road. Through our road program, we paved almost 2 miles of township streets. Combined fire, we have continued the fire services agreement with the borough to contribute to our Newtown Emergency Services service. We hired 4 firefighters paid through the SAFER grant. We hired 2 police officers, 1 as a school resource officer. We commissioned an LED streetlight conversion project, which is well underway, and there was a related grant that we received for that. We enacted the single-use plastic ordinance. Speaking of environmental issues, we successfully spent down our ARPA funds and have accounted to them, and this year one of the highlights was the upgrade of our AV system in 2024. Capital expenditures took place for all departments, including a street sweeper, police cruisers, special service fire vehicles, vests, radios, and body cams for our police officers, and a tractor and mowers. We ordered 2 pieces of fire apparatus to be designed, built, and delivered in 2028. And all this was done and more, because I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, with no tax increase for 2025. And we were able to stay our 10% ending, we were able to stay within our 10% ending fund balance guidelines. So those are just a few things that I wanted to note, and I pass it back to you.
Mr. Mack, any comments from our Secretary Treasurer tonight?
I have no comments at this time.
Mr. Calabro?
No comments.
Mr. Davis?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Reporting directly to the Board of Supervisors to serve the township with compensation for 2025. May I have a motion recognizing the Lewis employment agreement as township manager? I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion appointing Michael Lewis as Township Secretary and Treasurer?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. May I have a motion to appoint Kilkenny Law and Jerry Shankman as Township Solicitor?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Opposed, no? Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Do I have to say anything after 4-1? Okay. May I have a motion to appoint Mary Roseman as Board of Supervisors Recording Secretary? Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. For individual compensation, Zoning Hearing Board is 5-year terms. Motion to affirm the appointment of Tom Patero, Matt McCullough, William Wall, and Josephine Blestaris, and to appoint Paul Cohen for a term ending in 2029. May I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? I will second it, sorry. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, you said Tom Patero, it's Tim Patero, just for the record.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to civil engineer. Motion to appoint Remington and Vernick as Township Civil Engineer, General Environmental Engineer, and Lighting Consultant with appropriate authority to attend board, commission, and committee meetings. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board?
We don't have anything for traffic engineers separately?
Yes, we're going to leave that out right now. We will do an RFP if needed to try to have another, maybe get another traffic engineer.
Oh,
In the meantime, Remington Vernick will take that place, but we're not appointing them for the year.
that would be on a future agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a point of clarification? I just want to make sure if anyone agrees with me. Would it be prudent for us to elect them as our traffic engineer and our RFP at the same time? That way we have coverage in case there's plans that need reviewed or anything like that until we get a new traffic engineer. I'm all for, doing an RFP, but I think we may want to have the coverage.
We have
Throw it out there.
any discussion about that from the board? Okay, let's amend that to appoint RVE as traffic engineers with an RFP if needed in the future. Would that satisfy that? Mr. Fisher?
with
I don't understand with needed. Aren't we going to get an RFP?
Yes,
Yes, we are, but it takes a month or two maybe to get it passed, written
Yeah, but if
responses
needed
and the
means
like.
that we would get an RFP when needed. We're gonna get an RFP
We're gonna get an
either
RFP.
way.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
that's why we're here.
Okay. So we don't have that down here, so I will make the motion for that. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Further comments?
Let me just understand this. We're talking about RFP being traffic engineers right now, but we are committed to having a RFP as soon as possible, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Is that okay? Yeah?
No, now I understand what we're doing.
Okay, I understand, totally. I sort of didn't know how to say it also. You have to forgive me.
You're doing well.
Okay, so, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, so motion passes 3-2, I believe?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay,
Just to clarify, that doesn't negate the request for an RFP,
correct,
but it passed anyway.
Right.
Okay.
correct. Okay. Motion to appoint Remington and Vernick engineers as Township Civil Engineer, General Environmental Engineer, and Lighting Consultant with appropriate authority to attend board, commission, and committee meetings. May I have a motion for that? May I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to Geographic Information System Engineers, motion to appoint Remington and Vernick engineers as township engineers for GIS services. May I have a motion for that?
So moved.
I will second that. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to labor solicitors. Motion to appoint the law firm of Curtin and Heath as township labor attorneys. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call that question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
No.
Oh, no? Sorry, motion passes 4-1. Okay, moving on to building inspectors. Motion to appoint Barry Islet and Associates as township building inspectors. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion from the board?
These people are also involved in zoning violations? Is there a separate, is this included with this, under building inspectors? I mean, I don't mind them being building inspectors, but I have a problem with them being the zoning officer. So where do we talk
Yes.
about who the zoning officer should be? And when do we get speakers that are not feedback? These microphones.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second.
So,
Any discussion from the board about Barry Islet beside Mr. Mack?
well, I sort of had a question.
Okay, what's the question?
Is this motion also to appoint them as zoning officers?
Is it Micah?
No, this motion is just for building inspector.
Who's going to be the zoning officer? We have any,
Barry Isaac and Associates is a zoning officer
so, yes,
By a separate contract.
by separate contract, correct?
but we're not organizing that tonight.
No.
I'll make that motion for Barry Islet and Associates as township building inspectors. May I have a second?
You have a second.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no dissent?
No,
You said no. Sorry, I can't hear. I have the same feedback you do.
I got to shut mine off.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. 4-1. Motion passes 4-1. Pension Actuary, motion to appoint Mock and Hop Benefits Group as Township Actuaries. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
No.
I can't hear you. Did you say no?
You never asked for a no.
Oh,
You didn't ask.
You have to ask for a no.
I'm all confused now. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Hearing none. Oh, hearing one. Motion,
What?
I-
Wait a minute.
motion
We're
passes,
still doing mock and hop.
yes.
right? Okay,
So you're no.
correct.
Okay. So that's 4-1 with one no. Is that right? 4 to
Just
no.
4-1.
4-1, and I don't have to say no. Okay. Sorry about this, my first time, everybody. Hang in there with me. I'll get through it. Okay. Moving on to Pension Advisor, motion to appoint the firm of DeHaab Associates as Township Pension Investment Advisor. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. 5-0. Insurance brokers or carriers, motion to affirm H.A. Thompson, The Hartford, Standard Insurance, Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust, Delaware Valley Insurance Trust, and Delaware Valley Health Insurance Trust as brokers or carriers of township insurance and employee benefits. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
And I will second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Township planners, motion to appoint CKS as township planners. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I will second it. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of CKS as township planners, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. On to official depositories. Motion to designate First National Bank of Newtown, TD Bank, Invest Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust as township depositories. I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
I have a second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2.
Can I have a point of clarification there?
Yes.
Quickly?
Me? And
And
Phil.
Phil. If at any time we want to take one of these official depositories off, because I know Phil has consistently asked that we take TD Bank off the list. At any time we can do that, as long as it doesn't affect our,
Yes, currently,
percentage.
we're putting together an RFP to go out to banks. Once we have the results of that, we'll look for everything away from TD Bank.
okay.
Great, thank you. For earned tax collector, local services tax collector, and tax hearing officer, motion to appoint Keystone Collections Group as EIT, LST distribution tax collectors, and tax hearing officer. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. For auditor, motion to appoint the firm of Mackey LLP as the independent auditor to audit the accounts of Newtown Township for the fiscal year 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. Okay, video production. Motion to appoint Video Gold for 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Let's start a discussion, I think.
When are we going to get new microphones?
What we want to know is when this job that we paid for over a year ago will be finished in this room. And we can't really make the best decision possible until we know that answer, since we've been waiting a long time. So as we might approve this tonight, let it be known that we are looking for possibly RFPs if we don't get satisfaction with what we have authorized to be done in this room. So that's my discussion. That's my part of the discussion. So having said that, is there any other comments from the board?
Yes, even though I seconded it, I'd be willing to certainly look into RFPing as well. Again, it's a matter of let's get the job finished to the best ability and go from there.
Okay. So, hearing that, I will ask all those in favor of appointing Video Gold for 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2. Okay, moving on to Emergency Management Coordinator. Motion to appoint Glenn Forsyth as Emergency Management Coordinator. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? I will second it. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Vote passes 5-0.
Any
Opposed?
opposed?
Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Fire Code Official, motion to appoint Glenn Forsyth as Fire Code Official. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So it's an aye.
Was that an aye? Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, boards, commissions, individuals serving without compensation. Neshaminy and Little Neshaminy Creek and Delaware River Plan Advisory Committee. Motion to appoint Michael Lewis as the township representative. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
What is that exactly? The committee, advisory committee, what do they do?
It's an advisory committee that reports to the Bucks County Planning Commission when they do updates to the Act 167 plans.
What's the Act 160?
Act 167 is stormwater management for the Neshaminy and Little Neshaminy Creeks. It's required by DEP and EPA.
And does this, I guess, committee meet occasionally? Public
We
meeting?
haven't met since I've been here. They haven't redone the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of appointing Michael Lewis as township representative, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Vacancy Board. Motion to appoint Mary Donaldson in a term ending December 31st, 2025. I'll make that motion. A second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Planning Commission. Motion to affirm the appointment of Alex Treese, Shelley Howland, Joel Robb, Mary Donaldson, Terry Christensen, and Peggy Driscoll, and to appoint Cam McKenzie, Craig Deutsch, and Warren Dallas, all for terms ending in 2028. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion.
I will make that second. Is there any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Parks and Rec. Motion to affirm the appointment of Kelly Stormer, Chris Hardy, Catherine Ann Porter, Jan Phillips, and Rachel Chavez. We have no new appointments, so We are just affirming the appointments of those that are already appointed, so I don't need a vote for that, correct? Right?
We could vote to affirm if you, but
Vote
it's
to
just not
affirm, they've already
official.
been affirmed. They're on it. Okay,
However you want to do it.
okay. Vote to affirm those appointments that I just mentioned. Any discussion from the board?
I just had a I'm sorry.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, thank you.
I just
Sorry.
had a question about the openings on these committees. Can people still send in requests to be appointed?
I don't think we would ever probably say no to anybody that wanted to join. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think it's always great to have new people decide they want to come and help. So I would not be opposed to it happening at any time, personally.
I know we've done that in the past, and I know
Usually under
Mr. Fisher has often mentioned that we have vacancies and that people should apply, so thank you.
We often do that during old business, and put it on the agenda and then vote on it.
Right. Okay, so any other discussion from the board? Hearing that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of affirming these appointments, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0, 5-0. For the Newtown Area Joint Historic Commission, it's a 4-year term. Motion to affirm the appointment of Craig Deutsch and to appoint William Mahler for a term ending in 2028. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion from the board? None, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Our Historic Architectural Review Board. Motion to affirm the appointment of Mary Donaldson, Harriet Beckert, Craig Deutsch, and to appoint William Mahler for a term ending in 2028, Barry Islet and Associates as building inspectors for a term ending in 2025, and Peggy Driscoll as Planning Commission liaison for a term ending in 2025. I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Newtown Joint Municipal Sewer Authority Board for a 5-year term. Motion to affirm the appointment of Ellen Snyder and Jerry Shankman, and to appoint Linda Bogren for a term ending in 2029. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Environmental Advisory Council. Motion to affirm the appointment of Peter Gillies, Amy Easterly, Elaine McCarron, and to appoint Mark Haber for a term ending in 2026, Jan Filios for a term ending in 2026, and Lee Gordon for a term ending in 2027. I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
I have a question on that. I noticed that there are up to 7 members, and from my count here, how many vacancies are there with these? I think
One.
there would be,
There will still be one vacancy.
why only one? We got 1, 2, 3,
We have 6
4,
members.
5.
No.
Who's the 6th?
Lee Gordon, Jan Filios, Mark Haber.
Lee Gordon?
Yeah,
That's a new, okay, I see. It's not in my database, okay. Thank you.
so I don't know. Did I make that motion? Made the motion. Dennis seconded. Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Building Code Board of Appeals, 3-year term. Motion to affirm the appointment of Bradley Longoski and to appoint Craig Deutsch as, for a term ending in 2027. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Tax Collection Management Committee. Motion to appoint John Mack as Tax Collection Committee Delegate and Michael Lewis as an alternate. Thank you. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from the board?
If for some reason I can't attend, Michael, will you be going?
Yes, if possible.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have the Veterans Committee on this form, but we have no one on the Veterans Committee. So I'm going to skip over that for now. Hope maybe in the future people will want to form that board again, and that would be great for the township if they did. On to Human Relations Commission. Motion to affirm the appointment of John Gillenheimer, Nicole Adams, and to appoint Angelic Acevedo for a term ending in 2025, and Susan Shirato for a term ending in 2026. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I will second it. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Ordinance and resolutions. We're getting there, folks. Ordinance Resolution 2025-R-1 to set bond amounts for township officers for 2025, the treasurer being Michael Lewis, in the amount of $3 million. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2025-R-2, certifying properties that qualify for tax increase exemptions under PA Act 153. I will make such a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
What are these properties that are exempt from taxes, tax increase?
It's the Wiggins tract. It's owned by the township.
I know some senior citizens have been asking me about possibility of having some kind of relief for senior citizens, but that's another issue.
Any other discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2025-R-3, reaffirming Resolution 2007-R-10, establishing an administrative conditional use procedure. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Motion to reaffirm 2011-R-7, establishing the township's pension plan investment policy. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
I will second that. Is there any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Motion to adopt Resolution 2025-R-4, adopting the 2025 fee schedule. May I have such a motion?
No, so moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Motion to set the meeting dates for the Board of Supervisors for 2025. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second that. Any discussions from the board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Okay, motion authorizing the chairman, after polling the board, to have the chairman sign and the manager attest to proclamations honoring citizens' deeds and activities. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Motion to continue all 2024 tax ordinances and resolutions in force pursuant to Section 4 of the Local Tax Enabling Act for 2025. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Motion to approve the 2025 IRS mileage reimbursement. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion passes 5-0. Almost there. Pension Plan Committee, appointed yearly. Motion to appoint Michael Lewis and to affirm the appointments of Joseph Martindale, Chris Bush, and John Ellman for 2025. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Occupational Safety Committee. Motion to appoint Michael Lewis, Glenn Forsythe, and to appoint PBA appointment of Chris Bush and the CWA appointment of Joseph Martindale and Michael Jones for 2025. I will make that motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we're at that point where I'm going to go over our liaison and coordination assignments for the year. Well, these have not changed from last year. Bucks County Association of Township Officials is Kyle Davis. Bucks County Community College Liaison is John Mack. Community Service Organizations is Kyle Davis. Council Rock School Board is Ellen Snyder. Council Rock Senior Center, John Mack. Homeowners Associations, Philip Calabro. Historical Review Board, Dennis Fisher. Joint Zoning Council, all. Newtown Ambulance Squad, Ellen Snyder. Newtown Borough Council, Dennis Fisher. Newtown Fire Association, Ellen Snyder and Dennis Fisher. Newtown Joint Historical Commission, Kyle Davis. Joint Municipal Sewer Authority, all of us. Parks and Recreation Board, Kyle Davis. Planning Commission, all supervisors. County Tax Board, John Mack. Environmental Advisory Council, Ellen Snyder. Okay. That concludes that portion of the agenda. Let's see where we are. Okay, that brings us to our second round of public comment. Are we having that this evening? Okay. Related to the reorganization, do we have any public comment? It's down here at the bottom. 23 down here. Seeing none, miscellaneous items, is there anything from anyone, any supervisor for the good of the township that they would like to bring up?
So I'd like to bring something. Is this open topic here?
Yes.
Tonight we had mentioned a couple items being brought for RFPs. I think as a form of transparency, it's been a while since we've interviewed other professionals for the jobs that we have here, which are the solicitor, the engineer, and anything like that. Just as a point, again, as a point of transparency, I think we should put out RFPs for every professional position that we have. Not saying that we won't, you know, still hire the same professionals we have now, but we should take a look at different professionals in regards to like the labor and things like that. So I'd like to throw that out there as a possibility for us to interview other professionals for the positions that we have here in the township.
Do you mean for 2026?
And I mean for like right now, for 2025.
Can that be done after we've just,
Well, yeah,
done the
we've appointed, they work at our pleasure. We can hire or fire any professional at any time. But I think that just to show the public that we're not here just to keep hiring the same people over and over again, we should put it out for, again, RFP to interview other professionals in those positions.
I would just ask that we do it in an orderly fashion.
Well, I wouldn't want to
If
do
we
it in
had
a
5 or 6
disorderly
or 7,
fashion.
well, true.
But I mean, these are things we could interview them at, there used to be things called work sessions we used to have years ago. And I think we could interview the professionals at work sessions just to get a feel. I mean, even for the professionals we have now, when was the last time we ever interviewed them? So I think that, again, as a show of transparency, that we're open, we should possibly do this and put out RFPs. I mean, Mr. Lewis can do them starting ASAP if possible.
I kind of agree with that, but we need to decide, you know, in an orderly fashion meeting, do we put out 10 RFPs or 1 or 2, and how do we start, which ones we start with? And I think we need maybe a work session just to discuss that, which ones come first. Like for me, I mean, a traffic engineer comes first. We need an RFP, I think, for that. Secondly, I think we need an RFP for a zoning officer.
We can have RFP for whatever we desire.
But how do we go about, you know, doing that? What's the procedure exactly? I mean, we're not giving Mr. Lewis marching orders right now. We're just putting this up for discussion, right?
Well, yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I mean, he doesn't have to go do this tomorrow. But what I'm saying is the RFPs would go out for anyone that is a professional that works for us. From the solicitor to the engineer, to the traffic engineer, to the labor solicitor, to your codes and zoning person. So we could put these out. I mean, these are different RFPs for different positions.
Right.
They could all go out tomorrow, but they're all going out for different positions. Now, when we interview them, we would pick particular days where we want to interview solicitors, where we want to interview engineers, and so on.
Well,
that's us up. That's for us to decide.
But I'm assuming that if an RFP goes out, we have a chance to look at the wording of the RFP and what's included in it and all that.
Yeah, sure.
So we might need to have some kind of a work session where we start working on that. Is that how it would work?
Sure. At work session, we could look over many RFPs. If we did them one by one, we'd be doing every work session from now to the end of the year.
Well, I'm not saying one by one, but, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's hard to keep track of all this stuff if too much stuff is thrown out there, so.
I have a question, I don't want to take us too far afield, but for, like the auditor, are we looking to RFP the auditor? And they're like a year behind each time.
Yeah, we'll be issuing an RFP for the auditor for next year.
Okay. That's part of the routine. Okay.
So I think it seems like the consensus of the board is that we want to explore this opportunity to look at things that we haven't looked at in several years and just not keep saying yes to the same people every year and try to have some options available. And anybody have any other comments about that? Kyle?
Seems like a good idea.
So, Mr. Manager, do we throw that to you and say, could you start to arrange that process?
Yeah, what we'll start with is currently the RFPs that we've already talked about with the traffic engineer, with the banks, the auditor, and then as the year progresses, we'll discuss it and we'll move forward from there.
Okay. Anybody else have anything, any new or old business? Okay, was there any need for an executive session?
Madam Chair, if I might, I just want to make a note, the board met on December 19th to discuss matters of personnel.
Thank you. Okay, hearing that, I will adjourn this portion of the session of the reorganization before we get on to our regular agenda. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, everyone. regular meeting of the January 6, 2025 agenda. Mr. Manager, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Which brings us to our first round of public comment. Newtown residents, please go first. State your name and address, and please come up. These are things not pertaining to the agenda tonight. Okay, anybody else? Not from Newtown?
Good evening, Board. My name is Dave Hardesky. I reside on Stonebridge Court in Middletown Township. First, I wanted to extend some gratitude for allowing me to make some comments, and congratulations, Madam Chair, on your new position. I do want to start by saying when I'm emotionally charged about a topic, I tend to have a flight of ideas, so if I don't keep with the succinct request, I do not do so intentionally. This is specifically about the sewer water treatment plant project that is slated for possible development on bypass. On December 17th, we attended Middletown Township's Board of Supervisors meeting, which was standing room only with the hot topic, specifically being this treatment plant. There was a small committee representing the treatment plants project who presented several comments about the infancy of the plan and a trip to Kansas where they visited a similar plant and they did not have any foul odor or any appreciation of any abnormalities that could have possibly affect the surrounding areas. And then following that was a parade of very, very impressive resumes with decades of experience, involvement with these matters. And again, I'm going from memory that was 3 weeks ago, 2 holidays ago. So if any of this is inaccurate, again, not intentional. But I do recall a real estate attorney who had stated that just buying the parcel involved a rather arduous amount of work, and that this would suggest that this project is not in its infancy, that there's been a fair amount of effort put into its movement forward. I do recall an environmentalist, I believe, was a former part of the EPA, describing concerns about Lake Luxembourg and the elevated phosphate nitrate levels that we're currently dealing with, the effects that the suggested 2 to 2.5 million gallons of water runoff into the lake could have on these levels. And the most impressive speaker, I believe, was a supervisor for all of the sewage treatment plants in the state of New Jersey. At one point, I believe he stated that there were about 5,000 employees for that department directly underneath him who had stated, you know, there's really no sewage treatment plant that doesn't stink. It's not a question of whether it will smell, it's when and how bad and the radius it will affect. And, you know, we are sharing a border. Now, I do very sensitive that this is a Newtown project, and that Newtown really has very little in terms of voting prowess, so to speak. But, you know, I just wanted to come up, take an opportunity to express Middletown's concerns. I'm here representing Stonebridge Court, where as the crow flies, probably about half a mile from this plant. You know, wanted to express the concerns about the local environment and the potential smell that may be associated with the development of this plant. That is as a resident, and if it's okay, if the board will allow, I did run a email I am also the chief of surgery at St. Mary's Medical Center, and there is concerns about the smell radius involving the institution at St. Mary's. I did write this email and had it cleared by Dr. Edward Odell, the chief medical officer at St. Mary's. I wrote, this smell radius may extend into the property currently occupied by St. Mary's Medical Center, and I worry about the impact on this institution. I can't imagine we will be able to continue to grow our hospital in the setting of rising costs and decreasing insurance reimbursement if patients are reluctant to utilize our facility because of a foul odor. Hospitals across the nation have been struggling ever since the pandemic, and the rate of hospital closures is quite concerning. This is in no way an indication that St. Mary's is in dire straits. I cannot imagine a scenario where a decrease in patient visits and volume will not impact our ability to thrive. And that is all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
We're not doing.
I didn't get to ask a question. I'm covered under Humana. Is St. Mary's going to be sign up with Humana or not?
I can say that Trinity is very actively trying to entertain negotiations with Humana as we speak. We had a similar issue with Aetna, and they had an 11th hour agreement so that Aetna continues to be accepted through all of the Trinity ministries. Humana is certainly one of the top priorities now that the Aetna deal has been completed.
I'd like to just say one more thing. We are not the sewer authority. We are the Board of Supervisors. So if you look on the sewer authority online schedule, you will see when their meetings are. Feel free to come there. I think you would be heard more by the sewer authority there than here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very ignorant to these proceedings.
It's
I didn't know
okay.
if I was even allowed to talk. I would have worn something different than a sweatshirt and jeans, so I apologize for the attire as well.
It's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Moving on to our engineers report. Mr. Kandari?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank the board, too, for the opportunity at reappointment. It's very much appreciated. Just one item on the agenda, and then just one quick update on the business common sidewalks and the crosswalk project. At this time, we are still waiting for that window of opportunity with the weather, and now that the holidays are behind us, to get started on that. It's my understanding that we might be looking at another big snowstorm next week, so we do want to wait to start that work until we know we can start it and complete it without any delays and opening up the road. So that is the status of those two projects. The one item on the agenda is the Provco Pine Good, also known as the Wawa Financial Security Release number 3. On the Township, RVE reviewed a request by the developer seeking a release of financial security held for the completion of required site improvements at the Wawa. Based upon our inspection of the work completed, we recommend that Newtown Township release the amount of $86,763 to the developer from the financial security held for the completion of required site improvements at the development. After this release, the total amount of financial security remaining is $1,586,770.27.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the financial security release mentioned by Mr. Kandari?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes for financial security release 5-0.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I have some questions regarding the January 2nd engineers report, if I might ask.
Okay.
On Lower Darlington Road, the multi-use trail, you mentioned that there's a punch list and these are being, there's going to be a project closeout.
That's right.
I noticed that they did move the guardrail.
Yes.
And is that the final thing that they needed to do? I know
Yeah.
there's what I call a Darlington ditch down there with cones, 2 cones in there. Is that something that needs to be worked on, or?
That's been discussed with the Public Works, and we've been looking to address that and determine if that was part of the scope of the trail project. Perhaps the road program from last year, but something we can look to discuss with the Public Works and see if we can get the contractor to address it.
Yeah, I just don't know if I want to see those hazard cones there forever.
Understood.
I'm assuming there was a reason for that because it's beginning to eat away at the street. You know, the white line that's supposed to guide people, some of that is missing. So it is basically, seems to me, a safety. I'm assuming a few cars went into that ditch already, but I just wanted to know if that was on the list that you're talking about.
That is not part of the contractor's punch list for the Lower Darlington project.
All right, well,
May I just interrupt and say, Mr. Lewis, can we talk to Joe Scavone about that and see if we can attack that on our side, since, as I've heard, it has nothing to do with our engineers, and it has something to do with the way they didn't complete the road properly in the first place. So is that
Yeah,
something
I'll talk
we
to Joe.
can, does that help?
Thanks. The other thing, there's a couple of pre-construction meetings that you had regarding the crosswalk at North Sycamore and Silo Drive, and also at Newtown Yardley Road and Tower Drive. But is there a beginning date for this construction, or now that we're in the winter months, or we're going to have to wait until spring for any work to be done on those locations?
Correct. That was my update when I started, that there is a significant amount of mostly concrete work, so we want to wait for some good weather, some warmer weather. We are opening up the roads, like I said, so we didn't want to do it throughout the holidays, and we don't want to be starting and stopping. So it's a matter of finding a good window of opportunity to start and finish it. It shouldn't take too long for that work. So again, just looking for that window of good weather.
Okay, I don't know how long it's going to take, but you know, it's first safety issue is paramount importance, and
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we don't want to open up the road with snow on the ground and plows for safety concerns as well.
all right. The last thing is, of course, the sidewalk on North Sycamore Street. You were going to talk to PennDOT,
Correct.
I believe. Did you have that conversation? Is it PennDOT responded to your letter of request that we be able to include that in the grant that was?
Yeah, I have spoken with PennDOT directly. They are working with us. We have sent them our request to utilize those funds for a different project. That has not been settled at this moment. They're still reviewing.
They're still reviewing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're talking about the piece in front of the Newtown Cemetery, correct?
I believe Mr. Mack meant to say Langhorne Yardley Road instead of North Sycamore Street. Yes.
At North,
Yes.
at the Newtown Cemetery?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to just take an informal polling of the board to see if my fellow supervisors would like to go ahead with, you know, if PennDOT will take care of this, that may be, but how do we feel about that? Does anybody have any opinions? Because my opinion is we've done what we've been asked to do, and we've done it very well. We have other issues to move on to, so I'd like to hear what everybody has to say about that, and if they think that we should proceed with this sidewalk, which the Newtown Cemetery does not want. So I just want to make that perfectly clear.
The Newtown Cemetery doesn't want? Why is that?
That's correct. They think that it would take away the aura of the way that it's always been, and the way it looks like a rural
Where
cemetery.
did you hear that from?
If you go in and talk to them, they're there to talk to.
They're all dead people in there.
No, they're the workers, and there's people that run the cemetery that you can go in and talk to, which I have.
Okay,
Would you like me to try to bring
the
them
aura,
in?
I don't understand how the aura would be different with you got a tar-based trail. That's not a good aura. That looks just terrible. And it's a safety hazard. I mean, I guess they want more people in their cemetery because of the safety issue.
Well,
You
Mr.
know, my
Mack, there
position
hasn't
is we
been
got
any
over
problems there.
$300,000 from the grant that you're gonna leave on the table. It's ridiculous. We are trying to use the $300,000 or more dollars rather than giving it back.
It doesn't work that way.
Why, what do you mean it doesn't work? We're asking PennDOT. PennDOT hasn't decided yet whether it works or not.
May I suggest, I'd like to have a continued discussion about this, but I would like PennDOT to give us an answer. Maybe there's an opportunity for something. So can we wait until?
Well, that's what I'm interested in. that's all, basically.
I'm in agreement with Dennison and John on that. It seems like it seems a reasonable thing to do before we make a decision.
Okay, so we'll wait for their decision before making a decision of our own. All right. Okay, can we move on to minutes and bills?
Isn't there comments from the officials? No?
We're still on engineer's report one.
We're still on the engineer's report. Well, we already did the motion and the second for the release of the financial security release, and we all voted on that already. Do we need more?
John had some questions for the engineer. That's where we're still talking about engineering stuff.
I finished with my questions, and thanks for your answers. Thank you.
Right. So, again, let's move on to minutes and bills.
Manager's report, ma'am, Madam Chair.
Sorry, the manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. General fund balance this evening is $6,696,508. Plan expiration is before the board with no action required, and that's all we have under our report.
Can you give us that number again? I had lost my pen, 6 million.
$6,696,508.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary Treasurer, can we move on to minutes, bills, and reports?
Assistant Treasurer Secretary. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 11, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Second.
Any discussions from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next is the December 23rd, 2024 bills list. I'd like to make a motion to pay those bills on that list totaling $267,661.55.
I'll second that. Any comments from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of passing the bills list of December 23rd, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and next, regarding that bills list, I want to make a motion to approve the funds transfer of $297,214.88.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the bills list of January 6th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Just a point of clarification, I think in the interfund transfers
Interfund transfers.
for
Minutes,
December
bills.
23rd.
Yes.
Bills list of December 23rd.
We did the bills list, and there's
Okay.
an interfund transfer.
I didn't have that down here. Isn't that funny? Okay, interfund transfer, sorry. Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of the interfund transfers, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
The next one is the January 6th, 2020 bills list. I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills on this list totaling $474,990.30.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of paying our bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
Finally, regarding that bills list, I would like to make a motion to approve funds transfer of $316,300.64.
I'll second that. Do we have any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of interfund transfers, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to our last round of public comment. Do we have any public comment from the community? None? Oh, okay. Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on. Is there any old business?
I have one item. On December 16th, after we discussed this at the December 11th Board of Supervisors meeting, when regarding Tara, I forget her last name,
From the borough?
from the Middletown, a Middletown resident came here, asked us to do something about the safety issue on Summit.
Yeah.
Crosswalk and the bypass?
The crosswalk and the bypass, et cetera, et cetera. And so Mr. Fisher suggested that probably the best way to handle this, you need some kind of coordination between Middletown and Newtown, probably best through the Planning Commission. So I wanted to see if we can get this discussion at least started on the Planning Commission at their next meeting. I'm not quite sure how we go about that. I know they have other items that will probably come up that they need to discuss, but I would like to see if we can include this on their list of things to discuss, and maybe we can get some more expert opinions from our Planning Commission on that.
So who would we need, the traffic engineer?
I don't know if we're ready for that yet. I mean, there are people on the Planning Commission who should be cognizant of it. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people there from Middletown could invite.
Madam Chair, can I interject real quick?
Yes.
So after that meeting, we had discussed with Remington Vernick. Remington Vernick's going to put together a pedestrian safety information for PennDOT. As you know, that's a PennDOT road. Right. So all this information is going to be submitted to PennDOT to see what their opinion is of the crosswalk. Once we have that, we'll distribute it, and that may be a starting point for a discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a good idea. I don't know what all is going to be included in that, but they were also talking not only about the crosswalk, but about making right-hand turns out of Summit Shopping Center onto the bypass and having an extra lane and things like that. Is that part of what you might be working on?
So what we'll be looking at is, like Mr. Lewis said, was the pedestrian information. So I do have, a couple of things jotted down here that we'll be taking a look at. 12-hour data collection, site distance. We'll be putting together a technical memo. So there's a checklist of items that PennDOT would like us to take a look at, and then provide them that information, like Mr. Lewis said, so they can sort of take that information and give a recommendation.
Could I give you the PowerPoint that this Middletown resident had put together, which has, photographs with the circles and arrows and all that?
Sure.
I'll send that to you later.
Okay.
Is that the woman that came here and distributed? Yes.
Yeah, if you said her name, I'd
Her
remember.
name was Tara Jones. And
Jo-
she also spoke at the Middletown meeting that I was at. I mean, Middletown is looking to us to do the lead on this, but I'm not sure that's appropriate, but we need some kind of cooperation, and I just don't know.
Is Remy also the engineer for Middletown?
Yes. I mean, assuming all went well tonight at the reorg, but yes. And I am familiar with this woman who has concerns with that cross. So again, I've been in discussions with Mr. Lewis, and we are, doing the first step, I believe, in addressing the crossing.
Seems to me it would be appropriate for the planning commission to look at it at their, you know, time, whatever time frame fits for them. But, yeah, I think it'd be appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other old business? Any new business? And we had no need for an executive session tonight, so with no objection, I will adjourn the meeting.